I wish to call Shipra Pendse and Mudra Nalavade, who are from Adish Impacts Private Limited and Amoeba International. Okay, I'm sorry. Adish Impacts and Amoeba International, and their subject is international trade and business opportunities. So I wish to call Shipra Pendse and Mudra Nalavade.
हॅलो, थँक्यू मीनल मॅडम. सगळ्यात आधी आपण एक आदिश इम्पॅक्सचा छोटासा कॉर्पोरेट व्हिडिओ बघूया.
Sorry for interruption. These two cars in the front of the gate, car number is MH05BL1688 and MH15EP5187. या गाड्या ज्यांच्या असतील त्यांनी कृपया बाहेर संपर्क करावा. गेटच्या समोर आहेत ह्या गाड्या. अगेन नंबर इज MH05BL1688 and MH15EP5187. Thank you.
Today, the world of international trade has turned into one big integrated marketplace. New technologies for modern communication, superior logistics, and transportation facilities, along with seamless interoperability, has raised the standards of trade and commerce in the modern world. We are proud to be a part of this excellent revolution. This knowledge and wisdom is applied in the form of a successful business model to provide a range of dedicated services. We export various products to Asia, Europe, America, and Africa. We import products from renowned global suppliers for distribution in the domestic Indian market. Our steady growth in exports can be attributed to the goodwill earned by us with our international vendors and suppliers. Owing to our fast response CRM team, we are in a position to export various products meticulously to every part of the globe. Our products are distributed in 7 distinct categories: chemicals, pharma, agro, food, FMCG, stationery, fashion jewelry.
We distribute chemicals in all approved volumes. A wide range of these products are used in diverse applications.
Indian pharma industry has witnessed a robust growth in recent years. Today, India is the largest supplier of generics and vaccines due to its quality and economy. We at Adish Impacts Private Limited would like to bridge the gap between the overseas demand and the quality and economy of Indian medicines. Today, we specialize in API, excipients and intermediates and would like to enter into finished formulations shortly.
In near future, we look forward to deal with all kinds of grains, spices, spice powders, and snacks items. Adhering to strict standards of food consumption, the best of the products are served on our platter. Namkeen, ready-to-eat processed food, honey, a whole range of products to satisfy every need of the general consumer market. Entire range of FMCG products, a wide range of latest fashion and imitation jewelry.
Konnichiwa. Incorporating new Chinese products to our ever-expanding roster. Age-old brands such as Toyo, Sunstar are very innovative and affordable to Indian markets.
Adish Impulse is fully compliant with all necessary certifications.
Our strong, trustworthy, and reliable services with a quick turnaround time have earned us a host of satisfied customers.
Our dedicated team works with a vision to achieve star export house status in the near future. Adapting to track needs, Adish Impulse works on a 5-point methodology, sourcing through right suppliers, offering competitive pricing, quality assurance, hassle-free documentation, and exhaustive logistics solutions.
Join us today for achieving long-term and sustainable goals.
Today, the world of international trade.
थँक यू. मी मुद्रा आदिश इम्पॅक्सच्या वतीने तुमच्या सगळ्यांचं स्वागत करते आणि BBNGचे खूप आभार मानते ही संधी दिल्याबद्दल. गुड इव्हनिंग. Like every business has its own success story, Adish has its too. This journey began in 2008 when Mr. Shashank Pendse, after working for 23 years in a chemical company and nearing his 50, decided to quit his job and start a new proprietary company of his own with a view to trade in import and export of chemicals. Another noble thought behind this was to set up a good platform for the next generations, which can enable them to grow their ambitions higher. Like any typical Maharashtrian family, he did not have a business background and no financial assistance as well. But he was very determined, courageous, and geared up to take the challenges. In the next few years, his one-man company made a steady progress. During this period, he experienced that proprietary companies were facing difficulties in receiving loans and financial assistance from banks. So he decided to form a private limited company, and in this way, Adish Impex was formed in 2017. While he started with Adish, he suffered from a major illness which lasted till the end of 2021. Despite hit by this illness and COVID in the following years, Adish progressed well with the help of well-guided staff and colleagues under his thought leadership. After recovering from this, he felt the necessity of diversification. On realizing the huge potential for Indian products and plenty of opportunities in the global market, two new divisions, Pharma, Agro, Food and FMCG, were started in 2021. Today, Adish has a large customer base of more than 1,000 active customers, and we have almost doubled the turnover each year for the last 3 years. Thank you. On his constant endeavor towards business growth, Mr. Pendse realized the need of expanding his footprints in the foreign land to tap the customers based in GCC and African region. Out of this thought, our first foreign company, Amoeba International FZE, was incorporated in June 2022 in the Sharjah Airport Free Zone, UAE. I now request Shipra Pendse, the Managing Director of Amoeba International FZE, to take it further and explain more about Amoeba International and our imported stationery business. Thank you.
Thank you, Mudra. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So, after my graduation, I joined BNP Paribas and were handling their downstream systems for Japan sector. Out of my love for Japanese language, I have completed my JLPT N2 level, the second highest proficiency level in Japanese during my college time. So, after working with BNP Paribas for 2 years, I joined Adish in 2021. With my fascination towards stationery and love for Japanese, we started a new division of imported Japanese stationery. We import premium quality Japanese stationery from various famous Japanese brands like Sunstar Stationery, Toyo Origami, Iwako Erasers, and we are distributing it into Indian market, and we can see increasing popularity since we introduced them. We are looking for wholesalers, distributors, retailers for this product category to expand our market reach. UAE, especially Dubai, being a prominent trading and re-exporting global hub, in early 2020, Amoeba International FZE was formed in UAE, and I was given the additional responsibility of this new entity. Through Amoeba International, we are focusing more on GCC region and African market to import and re-export products in categories such as chemical, food, agro, and FMCG. We see an increasing business opportunity in these categories for Indian products. We are also looking for reliable suppliers in these categories to grow our business. As a part of our social responsibility and creating awareness about the opportunities available for MSME sector in international trade, I would like to call upon Mr. Sudhakar Kasture sir, who will brief us on this subject precisely. Kasture sir is a leading consultant in international trade for 40+ years and is advisor to many national multinational companies, export promotion councils. He has been on various advisory committees to Government of India on EXIM policy matters. He is also a well-known speaker on various topics related to international trade. Apart, he is a mentor at EXIM institutes, which has imparted education to more than 5,000 students in last 2 decades. Before I hand it over to Kasture sir, I would like to thank BBNG for giving us this opportunity. Thank you.
Good afternoon, friends. It's a very interesting situation. International trade has 2 very interesting angles. If you look at the social angle, and if you look at the Bollywood Hindi films of last 40 years plus, you will find import-export business is normally run by the villain. And this villain has a lot of money. Not only money, he has all the possible luxuries of the world. And the fellow chasing him, normally an inspector, only has a jeep and a pistol. So general understanding of the subject through Bollywood movies is that this is something related to smuggling. You can't help. We all are grown looking at the Hindi films. One aspect. There is another aspect which is critically important. How many of us really look at international trade as such? Let me give you some figures so you will get an idea. China roughly account for 13% of the world trade. First, let me tell you what is world trade of 2021-22. The figures are $21,000 billion. $1 billion equals to, at the current exchange rate, 8,200 crore rupees. So 8,200 crore into 21,000 is the size of the business. What is India's export? India's export of calendar year 2022 is 422 billion. We roughly represent 1.7%. If you really want to go into minute details, maybe between 1.7 and 1.8. What is our population? 140 crores. Another 2 years, we will surpass China. Chinese exports are 3,300 billion. Our exports are 422. If we calculate the way we calculate per capita income, if we calculate per capita export, where will we stand? Why this happens? Because international trade has never been the focus. Our main focus was always on the domestic market. We always felt international business is something too complicated. It requires a hell lot of money, hell lot of efforts, what not. And there is some sort of scare in the mind that this is too complicated, this is not my job. So the first point I would like to tell you is that international trade is not all that difficult that you see. Let me give you 2 examples, particularly for MSME. And how business expands. Simple. I was conducting a program in Mudra, and we were discussing about how to go ahead with. So one small cooperative society from that area came up and said, we would like to export lungis. This is a specialty product from Tamil Nadu, has a great value. People respect this. And I was talking about export through e-commerce. They like the idea. This is something very good. Then I told them, you want to export this? You can do it. Question is, how do you reach out to people? So they said it's very simple. We have a temple association, and temple association has 11,000 members. So at least 2 containers of lungis can definitely be sold, each one buying only 1 lungi. It's not difficult for us to reach them because we'll send 1 mail that will be copied to all 11,000 people, and we are likely to do this. You may not be aware, so let me give you the first primary point of growing into business. And it's very simple to understand. We have roughly 2 crore non-resident Indians abroad. Please tell me, raise your hands, how many of you have any relative who is working or staying abroad? That means you already have 1 contact. The first simplest methodology of business is reserve 5,000 rupees, consider that as a waste, and send him something through e-commerce, maybe a box of Alfonso mangoes, maybe some Diwali sweets, anything of this sort. And just take the notes how you can expand business by starting with a free sample. I am not talking about high amount of money, only 5,000 rupees. Get that experience. And it's very interesting. How many of you buy online? No, I can guaranteedly tell you, every one of us buys something online. So import through e-commerce, we know very well. Product delivered at my home, I know very well. How do I want to export? That I don't know. So I need to look at it. Now, two things. For expansion of business and particularly for MSME, there are two programs already decided. I am aware of that. One program is known as ODOP. ODOP stands for One District, One Product. So one product from one district is already identified by Ministry of Commerce. You have a list of 720 products from 720 districts. That means that product can be exported, product is identified. This is likely to come in the next policy. I hope it is announced on 1st April 2023 for the next 5 years. And this will be covered under two categories. One is called e-commerce, second is called district hubs. From each district, wherever you are, you can identify the product. Second thing, very little is known about that, so let me tell you. CBIC, Central Board of Indirect Taxes, last month has already issued instructions, and postmaster of the district is empowered to accept these parcels for the purpose of exports. Now we all know this, that post was a very close thing to our heart once upon a time, because we used to write letters, we used to send money orders, we used to send parcels. The normal job of post office has become completely zero, but the administration and the buildings are there. So all that can be utilized for this particular purpose. And the person who is staying in a district need not come to the port area for the purpose of exporting the goods. The CBIC instruction very clearly says it is the responsibility of the post marshal to take clearances from customs. Don't trouble the small fellow. Let him export the goods. Again, let's go back to the world. There are three countries, USA, Germany, and China, account for 28 to 30% of the world trade. Out of which, USA is a country which has trade deficit. What is meant by trade deficit? USA imports more, exports less. China is trade surplus. They export more, import less. Germany is trade surplus. They export more, import less. I told you about India's exports 422 billion. Germany is the size of Maharashtra state. And Germany's export is 1500 billion. How come this is possible? This is possible on account of three things. And these three could be the pillars for everyone, every business person. The first pillar is credential. Credential of the country. You have countries like Germany, you have countries like Japan, where you don't have to think about the quality that they are talking of. You can trust them in terms of quality. You can trust them in terms of delivery. When it comes to Japan, Japan is one country that they will not promise you anything if they can't supply. They stick to the aspect of this, and which is extremely critically important, because at the end of the day, whatever you do should result into creation of credibility for you. If it results into credibility for you, business will automatically follow. Because there is one problem with the human beings, and that problem is very interesting. We don't like it many times, but still it stays. If you really like something, you will speak about it. Very simple example of this, you go to a music concert, the fellow sang so well or he played so well, you are going to talk about it, whether you want to talk about it or you do not want to talk about it. You are going to talk about it. And that will create, because you have no financial interest in promoting him, in spite of that you are talking good about him. So naturally, the fellow is likely to feel that, yaar, aisa bol raha hai, I should also go and listen to that fellow. If it brings so much of joy that he would like to share, that plays a very, very important role. So my first request to you, create credentials. Second request, create competitiveness. Whether it is India, whether it is abroad, any place, if you like the quality, the second question that comes to your mind, what is the cost? If buyer is Indian, very interesting. He would definitely love cost only. I was leading a delegation to China, visiting an exhibition. It was a very interesting experience. China displays two kinds of qualities, one for Europe, one for India. Whatever they display for Europe, they know the fellow will talk about one container, ultimately end up in ordering 10 containers. They also know about Indians that he'll talk about 10 containers. Last question he will ask, आधे container का हो सकता है? So, they have a tendency, and the tendency psychological is very interesting. Product I will give you, price yours. You tell me the price, I will match in that price, but don't ask for quality. Don't complain tomorrow, because you ask me a price. Then if you are a pure trader, you are only looking at the profit that you make. You're not worried about what is going to happen subsequently. One good example I would like to give you, all of you know that. You buy electric malas during Diwali days, most of them come from China. And it's very interesting. We have only one calculation, what is the cost? We have another calculation, is Diwali chal jayega na, bahut hai, agli baar ka agli baar dekhenge. What we want? We want something at the cheapest possible cost. No. You have every right to demand the cost, but the cost has to be competitive. And in order to find out competitive cost, you have to do competition analysis of different countries. Fortunately, technology helps you to get all the details. There is an organization called DGCIS, which can give you data at 8-digit level. 8-digit level is the classification of a product. If you are paying GST, you know. You use 4-digit level at GST, now you're going to use 6-digit. For international trade, we always use 8-digit. And if you go to the website of ministry, you would be able to find out which are the top 10 countries buying these goods. So you already know that I have a market there. Then the question comes, how do I expand that market? Expansion of that market is possible on credibility, on competitiveness, quality of your product, and most importantly, the kind of service you deliver. Again, there is a problem. There are fundamental problems in our system. For example, if I ask you a simple question in Marathi, की ते documentation सगळं बरोबर आहे? त्याचं सगळ्यात सोपं आन्सर असं, नाही सर बरोबर आहे पण जरा थोडं 19-20. We are never saying we are 100% correct. We always keep that room pending, tolerance, excuses, something or the other. When you are working in a digital world, you cannot afford to make mistakes. You cannot correct those mistakes. Always remember this. Even if you file amended document, the original document is with the government. It is not discontinued from the system. So you can always be checked and caught into, looked into. Therefore, documentation has to be correct 100%. Treatment to the buyer has to be correct 100%. And most importantly, export has to be our passion. Let me give you some more things. Very surprising, you may not have noticed it also. Our imports, the gap between our imports and exports last year was $192 billion. The latest figure I have up to December end, we have already touched $218 billion deficit. And we are likely to have deficit of roughly 285 billion to 290 billion by 31st of March 2023. Can we reduce this deficit? Answer is no. Why answer is no? I'll again give you statistical figures. There are only 3 commodities which account for 48% of our imports. The first commodity, petroleum products. Second commodity, gold and silver. Third commodity, edible oils. What are you going to reduce? Can you reduce expenditure on petroleum products? Suppose I ask you, from tomorrow onwards, start walking. Don't use the vehicle. How many of you are ready? Tomorrow I ask you, don't use oil for cooking. And third problem is, don't use gold and silver. Now, gold and silver in India is never seen as a commodity. It is always seen as an asset. And we are dishonest people also. For example, I have fallen in love with a girl. I want to marry her. And then everything is done, everything is settled, and then finally I says कि वो गहने तो लाने पड़ेंगे थोड़े बहुत because मेरी माँ नहीं मानती. I don't want anything from you, but my mother, how can I refuse to her? We find out excuses. Only 3 commodities account for 48% of our import bill, and none of these 3 commodities are going to go down. All said and done, all political differences on the cards, China is still the largest supplier as far as India is concerned. Our exports are $16 billion, our import are $80 billion. We'll have to think about this, and the only answer for sorting out this problem is we have to have the passion for exports. Unless until you have a passion that this is what I want to do. Now, what is meant by passion? So my first request to you, when you want to start export, don't calculate in terms of value. Calculate in terms of percentage of production. Okay, this year I have exported goods, 10% of my production. Next year I want to make it 15%. Third year I want to make it 20%. Fourth year I want to make it 40%. I will consciously increase my global footprint because to get recognized in the global economy, you need a global footprint, and at the least level, if you want to talk about countries like Korea, your percentage of global trade should be at least 5% of the world. If world is 21,000, calculate 5%, that is $1,100 billion. Our target for 2030 is $1,000 billion. But if we do not take the interest in it, if we don't make it a passion, then it is extremely difficult to achieve these targets. Like you want to teach your child. When you want to teach your child, you give him options, you give him everything, and then you provide everything. And that's your passion, that my child should learn this. In the same manner as an entrepreneur, if I decide that I want to have this much amount of exports, then only it is possible. If I want to rely on incentive schemes and things like that, and then I will say, because I am getting this, so I will export, then it's not going to work. What is our target? Our target is $1,000 billion exports by 2028, 2030. Another $1,000 billion export of services. We are likely to conclude free trade agreements with roughly 136 countries. We already have agreement with ASEAN, we have agreement with Korea, we have agreement with Japan, we have recently entered into agreement with Australia and UAE. Now we are negotiating bigger agreements. We are negotiating with Israel, we are negotiating with UK, we are negotiating with the European Union, we are likely to negotiate with Asian countries and earlier USSR countries like Azerbaijan, Armenia, etc. We are also likely to negotiate agreement with Africa, with a combination of 52 countries at one go. So almost 136 countries, you will have market access at 0 or lesser rate of duty compared to rest of the world. If we concentrate on this simple fact, you will automatically understand what is the possibility of growth of business in goods as well as in services. Few points I would like to specially highlight on. So let me tell you that. We have entered into agreement with Japan. Japan has offered us 4 categories in which work visas can be granted. First category, yoga teachers. Second category, classical music teachers. Third category, chefs. Fourth category, health workers. I would only like to talk about one category called health workers, nurses, because Japan has a senior age population. What is the salary you pay to a nurse in India? Monthly? Around 20,000 rupees. The salary given to a nurse in Japan is $20 per hour. Calculate. 80 rupees you take as an average rate. 1600 rupees per hour if she works for 10 hours. 16,000 rupees. That means her monthly salary is covered in 1.5 days. If she gets a work visa for working 3 years in Japan and she comes back after 3 years, you will find whatever provident fund savings, etc., she could have got at the end of 30 years, she has covered in 3 years. This is possible. We are negotiating agreement, service contracts with number of countries. Everywhere we are trying to do this, and we'll have to look into this very, very seriously. For that, export has to be our passion. So let me conclude by saying small little things. एक हिंदी की कविता है, बड़ी प्यारी है, and that is the essence of everything. You love it. It goes like this. आलसियों का सम्मान हुआ, हमें प्रथम पुरस्कार मिला. It doesn't end here. आलसियों का सम्मान हुआ, हमें प्रथम पुरस्कार मिला, हम गए ही नहीं. हाइट तो यही होगी ना. If we are not prepared to step in, if we are not prepared to go out, if you are not going to work on it with passion, then this is not possible. International trade is one area which never stops. There are 200 countries. You are going to source from country A, country B, country C. Nobody is purely going to depend on you 101%. If you don't supply, I will wait for you. This is never going to happen in international trade. And international trade never ends. Because every country needs something. Every country has something surplus. So with this, my humble request to you, develop this as a passion. Study. I'm not tired of studying. I'm studying it since 1974, 48 years. I still feel like studying this subject because it gives you enthusiasm of doing things. India has a great potential, no doubt about it. But the question is, we need skill development, we need research. Most importantly, we need passion. And going with the words that my predecessor has said, so let me add one more sentence. To fall in love is free. Maintenance of love is expensive. Never forget that. Have passion, travel abroad, make sure that India's global footprint is seen. And I wish every one of us will contribute to this national cause, and that is how we will create a state for India in the global world. I am greatly thankful to all of you for giving me this opportunity to talk to you. Thank you so much once again.
नमस्कार. थँक्यू मिनल फॉर दिस ऑपॉर्च्युनिटी. आपण आत्ताच ऐकलं आदेश इम्पॅक्ट्सचा जो काही प्रवास, की यू शुड हॅव लव फॉर एक्सपोर्ट्स. सो एक्सपोर्ट्स हॅज टू बी आवर पॅशन, ॲज राईटली सेड बाय अबिबा इंटरनॅशनलचे मिस्टर कस्तुरी सेड इट सो व्हेरी वेल. आदेश इम्पॅक्ट्स प्रायव्हेट लिमिटेडचा प्रवास, सी इट स्टार्टेड वेल इन 2017ला प्रायव्हेट लिमिटेड होती आहे, प्रोप्रायटरी टू प्रायव्हेट लिमिटेड. अँड व्हॉट अ कोइन्सिडन्स. आय एम बीइंग गिवन एन ऑनर टू do the Thanksgiving for this company, because we as SA Namdas have recently joined from proprietorship to private limited ready-made blouses. So what a coincidence. Thank you so much. As Vice Captain of Parivartan 23, we are really blessed to have all our beloved sponsors, because we learned so many things from them. And as rightly said, yes, offshore facilities are occasions, or offshore opportunities are knocking our doors. They are not far from India. And sir, Mr. Kasture sir, I would precisely like to mention your example of exporting lungis. We are exporting ready-made blouses. Isn't it a coincidence? So definitely, this is really 2 crore NRIs are there waiting for us, and I'm sure next year, sir, we will have a fabulous success story of our BBNG members who are going to export and take this Parivartan 24 ahead, and you will surely hear the success stories that yes, we are having footprints and our export is going to be a passion because international trade never ends. सो मी हा या मंचाद्वारे सगळ्यांना आवाहन करते आणि तुम्हाला सर खात्री देते म्हणजे या ह्याच्यातनं की आपण जो काही हा तुम्हाला सगळ्यांना आजच्या ज्या अपॉर्च्युनिटीज ओपन झालेल्या आहेत त्याचा नक्की सगळ्यांनी लाभ घ्या, त्यांना 1-to-1 साठी भेटा आणि असेच आपण नेहमी भेटत जाऊ. सो वी आर सो व्हेरी थँकफुल फॉर द वंडरफुल इनपुट्स बाय एव्हरीबॉडी, ऑल दी स्पीकर्स ऑफ आदिश and Amiba Trade. Thank you.